What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video as the New York Giants are now 2-8 as they go into the bye week. And usually when you won 2 out of your first 10 games and you're coming off a year in which you've won 5, changes are necessary. And it's very possible that it could happen. I don't know what the New York Giants are going to do, but somebody very well may lose their job. It's actually likely at this point that I think at least a coordinator loses a job. And there was an article that came out today written by Jordan Rannon of ESPN talking about just that, in which he talked about Betcher, in which he talked about the head coach, Pat Shurmur, and in which he talked about the general manager, of course, Dave Gettleman. And Mara, of course, we all heard about the reports that came out after the game when the New York Giants lost to the New York Jets in the manner in which they did, squandering an opportunity to beat the in-state rival. A game in which Daniel Jones played well outside of the turnover, which was costly, where he threw 4 touchdowns. And when your quarterback throws 4 touchdowns, you usually should win the football game. Unfortunately, the New York Giants could establish no ground attack, and the defense was abysmal. So that's why they lost the game. But Mara seems to be very upset, so upset that he is not talking to the media during the bye week. Him and Gettleman will not be fielding questions, which I watched Bad Dog's video, and he's absolutely right to be as upset as he is, and that's a problem. But this video is about whether or not the Giants trust Gettleman to make the decisions that need to be made in what could very well be one of the most important off seasons in franchise history. You just brought in a rookie quarterback, and now you need to find a way to set the foundation to set this guy up for success for the next 5 to 10 years, much like the New York Giants were able to do for Eli Manning. This is an imperative offseason where the Giants do have some cap space and a plethora of picks. Now, one thing I will say about Gettleman, and even, his strongest, haters, if you will, critics, would tell you that he drafts pretty well. This year, he found Darius Slayton late in the draft. He found Ryan Conley, who looked to be a really good middle linebacker before he went down with the injury. He was criticized a lot for taking Daniel Jones 6th overall, myself included. Was not happy with the pick, along with a lot of Giants fans. And to this point, Daniel Jones looks to be worth that pick. Yes, you could certainly argue you want Josh Allen. I have Clocks, a subscriber of mine, who continually reminds me that they should have taken Josh Allen, and I get it. I wanted Josh Allen just as much as anybody. But Daniel Jones, if he's a good quarterback, was worth that pick. And so far, outside the following problems, outside of his, his rare, and, sometimes he struggles with cover 2, which you expect in a rookie. Rookies are not supposed to be perfect. That's why they're rookies. They have to learn. He has shown the physical skill set, especially when you factor in a horrible offensive line, really since week 4. He has displayed that skill set necessary, I think, for a guy to be a franchise quarterback. And hopefully it works out. And if it does, it was the right pick by Gettleman. And that may save Gettleman's job. And it may save Shurmur's job. Because of how well Daniel Jones has played at times. Shurmur is supposed to be a guy that teaches quarterbacks. We may want him gone. You may want him gone. That doesn't mean he will be. We don't get to make that decision. But that may be what saves his job. And I will say Gettleman drafts very well. Now, where Gettleman has struggled since coming on, his free agent acquisitions have been abysmal. And that is what Mara reportedly may be concerned about. When you look at his resume with free agency, and granted, he hasn't had a lot of money to spend, but he has had so many misses and very few hits. I mean, you go down the list, Kareem Martin, Nate Solder. Nate Solder might be the most overpaid player in football, making $20 million over the next 2 years at the left tackle position, and he couldn't block me if he had to. Jonathan Stewart was a waste of money. Mike Remmers, Antoine Bethea, Patrick Omame, William Gay, Curtis Riley, and those are just a few of the misses. There's many more. Yes, you could argue that he hit on Golden Tate, but Golden Tate, he served a suspension for the first 4 games, and he's up there in age, so who knows if he's going to be worth it for the length of the contract. And then, Marcus Golden. Marcus Golden was a hit as well. It's a 1-year prove-it contract. He's proven it. And now Gettleman, if he stays on, will be faced with the decision of whether or not to fork over big bucks to keep Golden here, because if he's not, somebody else will be. So those are going to be some of the offseason decisions, hopefully for Gettleman, for his own sake, if he remains on as the general manager. But what I wanted to do was pull up an article written by Jordan Rannon and some of the quotes that came out and show you what he had to say. And there, of course, is Dave Gettleman. And here is the first quote. The Giants tried to win while rebuilding this season. Again, that is why they brought back a 38-year-old quarterback, Eli Manning. Now, you could certainly argue that may not be the case. That's just his interpretation, who is counting for $23.2 million against the salary cap. The Giants have more than $60 million counting against the salary cap invested in players who are not on the roster or not in the starting lineup. And when you think about that, that is mind-boggling. But I think the cap was about $190 million. That's nearly a third of the cap has gone to players that are either no longer New York Giants or who are on the bench. Of course, Eli Manning makes up a large portion of that at $23 million. Like I said, you could certainly argue that it was a rebuilding year. They kept Eli Manning on to mentor Daniel Jones, and who better to do it? So that could have been the reasoning, but $23 million is a lot. As much as I love Eli Manning, that's a lot to leave a guy on just to be a mentor. And yeah, of course, Saquon Barkley last year, a lot of people viewed that as a win-now pick, as they should have. And then this is what else he had to say. Gettleman didn't step into a good situation, inheriting a 3-13 team, which is very fair. But he hasn't made it much better. His future will likely be contemplated at the end of the season. Do the Giants really want him in charge of the rebuild and spending millions in free agency this offseason? There are some doubts at the moment. So there are, and when he says that, he's talking about people within the Giants organization. So there are the quotes from Jordan Rannon, and you know what? Doubts are fair. Doubts are fair for everyone in this organization. When your team wins 7 out of their last whatever it's been, doubts are necessary. And I think Gettleman will be back. I think they'll let him have another year because of the way he's drafted, because of Daniel Jones and some of his other successful draft picks. But he's certainly going to be under a microscope. And the Giants have to spend this offseason. And if they do not trust Gettleman to bring in the right players, they may want to make a move. They have to have complete trust in this man to make the decisions that he feels he needs to make. And so far, to the Giants' credit, they have done that. They gave him the ability to go out there and trade away Olivier Vernon, to trade away Odell Beckham Jr., to trade away Eli Apple, to trade away Snacks Harrison. They gave him that freedom. And now they're going to have to continue to have to do it, or they'll have to go out and find somebody else. We'll have to see how it all plays out. If you ask me, I would say that Gettleman is more than likely back. But as always, guys, if you liked what you watched, please subscribe. Drop a comment. Maybe give me a little thumbs up. Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. Will Gettleman be back? Won't he? And more importantly, do you want him back? As always, cheers.